loads of fucked up looking people doing fucked up shit.
You're still listening. This is our final transmission.
We're here. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Sam.
How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Thoroughly traumatized. Thanks for asking. It's Baskin time.
It is. That's Baskin, the afterglow of fucking a goat person.
Yep. Full disclosure, advance warning, etc., etc. This is not about Carol Baskin from the popular TV show Tiger King. No, sir, no, ma'am. It is very much the polar opposite on the spectrum.
It is a 2015 Turkish horror film directed by Kaan Evrenol, written by him and I guess some mates. I don't know who the other people are.
Some buds, based on a short film by the same dude, correct?
Yeah, so I saw the short film at Fright Fest in, 2013, 2014. I'd seen a couple of his other shorts previous to that. He made one called To My Mother and Father, which was shot in a kind of assy way, but like fucking horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like...
So it shot like ass and it was horrible.
Like,
wow.
It sort of looked like it was shot on a camcorder.
Okay.
Like a cheap camcorder with bad lighting. But like it was very much in the Baskin space. Early doors.
Okay.
With some really good practical effects.
So that's your first taste of the goods.
The canned goods.
What came next?
So the next thing I saw from him was another short, also at Fright Fest, where they did like a bunch of these like turn your phone off, tongue-in-cheek things, and he directed one of them. I think his might have been the best one. And then Baskin came out, the short, I think, 2013, 2014?
Yeah, 2013 I read.
And then he toddled off and made it into a feature.
And for us, a modern movie, 2015.
Absolutely.
Is that our most modern feature thus far? Yeah, it is.
Thus far.
I mean, that's a huge leap for us up into the noughties. Yeah,
well, our last most recent was Splinter, wasn't it? 2008.
Correct. Yeah. So what made you want to do Baskin? What made you want to go into this fucking world?
Well, I'd seen it before. I'd really been affected by it. And I wanted to put you through it.
That seems to be a running theme. While I'm flattered to be the motivation for this, the why remains. What was it about this movie that you found so immediately impactful on your soul and your psyche that you wanted to inflict it on an innocent bystander and someone you call a friend?
It's a challenging film, but I think it's quite rewarding. It's really well made and it looks incredible. And we'll get into all of this in the proper review, but like, I just think there's something pretty special about it, and it's sort of unique in its horribleness.
It certainly is unique. Yeah. Why don't you lead the charge over the mighty bridge between worlds and give us a little bit of a synopsis, if you will.
Okay, so synopsis. I wrote one out because I've started doing that now just in case.
Nice. Okay.
4 shithead cops answer a backup call to a nearby spooky MacGuffin place. On their way there, they hit a mysterious person with their van who disappears. And then they crash into a lake. Mm-hmm. Crash into a lake. Do you sort of drive into a lake?
Oh, they crash into that lake. I think that's bang on, yeah.
Okay. They make it out of the crash without any major damage, so it seems. And then they trek on to the backup call, where they ultimately end up crossing a threshold into hell, or into a hell dimension at least, ruled by Baba, which means father in Turkish, where they are summarily fucked up in all kinds of ways until the movie ends.
That's the movie I watched, for sure. And in those cracks, creases, and crevices, we're treated to a veritable cornucopia of visual treats and plot twists and horrible messy deaths. So where do you want to start with this movie?
Why don't we take a little break and we'll come back.
Now you're talking. Yep.
And we'll get right into it.
I'm going to put my feet up real quick.
I just need a moment to recover.
Still recovering.
Will you give it up, man? Nobody's out there. We're alone. Oh no, there's somebody out there. I'm picking up all this crosstalk.
Sam.
Yep.
Have you ever jumped in Lake Michigan and swam out as far as you can?
No, I haven't, but I know someone who has.
Who's that?
Deanna from the band Sincere Engineer.
Oh, nice. That's who I was thinking of also.
Fueled by corn dogs and rage, just out there. You know, she's one of the most intelligent humans I've ever met.
Really?
Yeah, she's the best, man. I mean, the whole band is, chock full of great humans. We played War on Christmas together last year. Fast friends. Good people. Love that shit.
Well, that record, Rombithian, is so good. Constant play around the Carruthers household.
Sincere Engineer.
Red Scare Industries.
What a combo. No longer together. We mourn the loss.
Yeah. It's all hopeless now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's game over. It's all downhill from here. The 20-year mark, it's all downhill.
Yeah.
Hi, Deanna. You'll never listen to this, but we love you.
Sincere Engineer, man. Great record.
Huge fan. Oof, what a break. That was lovely. How
That
you
was
feeling?
lovely. Yeah, I feel much better. I feel
Refreshed.
like my synapses are firing.
Fuck yeah, let's get them flaming.
So, give me your first impressions of Baskin.
My first impressions could not be simpler. I enjoyed 2/3 of the movie, and then 1/3 I did not enjoy one little bit.
Did
And
you
chronologically, I think you can guess which way round it went.
Did you not enjoy it in a good way?
I have very mixed feelings about the final third of this movie, if I'm being totally honest. I found the first 2/3 of this movie to be wholly engrossing and filled with little treats. I just thought it didn't feel as hard earned as the movie was kind of trying to make it. I think it tries and fails at a lot of things quite admirably. It tries and succeeds at a lot more things really, really well. And I felt like I was being treated to a whole load of fantastic visuals, some clever plotting, some pretty decent characters, some fun. And then there's a point in the movie where the entire tone shifts radically in a totally new direction. And that was the part for me where I found myself faced with a choice as to how much I was going to enjoy the movie. I chose to try and enjoy it as much as humanly possible, but it didn't quite pan out that way. So I think it's probably best if we talk about that tonal shift.
The choice is to fuck the goat lady or to be cajoled physically into fucking the goat lady. That is the choice that the movie gives you.
Well, there's the rub. There is no choice. He has to fuck the goat lady.
Yeah, the choice is you do it willingly,
right,
or you do it painfully.
Yeah, what kind of choice is that, dude? That's the choice that Baskin gives us. Now, throughout the movie, I was acutely aware that I was watching something that was probably headed somewhere pretty terrible, based mainly on the cover and the tiny little snippet of text that I'd read that acted as a synopsis online. But I also knew that I was seeing something pretty beautiful and pretty layered. So, I mean, how do you want to go into this? Do you want to talk a little bit about the early part of the movie and build chronologically to the end? That makes sense to me.
Well, why don't I start and give you a bit of background on the production and like where the film came from?
Yes, please.
So, Can Everett, as we said, made a bunch of short films, and he'd hoped to sort of translate some of the success that he's had with short films over the years. They played a lot of festivals, and he hoped to sort of transfer that into some feature-length success. But it never really happened in the way that he wanted it to. He decided to make Baskin, which was based on a feature-length script that he'd written, and he decided to make it as basically as a proof of concept short film that he could show at festivals and shop around in the hopes that someone would option it and it would become a feature. It's kind of worked. It got shown at a bunch of festivals and was initially optioned by Eli Roth for 6 months, who wanted to make it into a feature. It never really went anywhere, but that failure ultimately got Can in front of a bunch of execs at other studios and other production houses. Again, this didn't yield anything. Ultimately, his parents remortgaged their houses and helped him finance the movie that way. But what that meant was that the people knew his name and knew his pedigree when it came time to try and release the movie, which is why people outside of Turkey know about one Turkish movie.
Right. I mean, case in point, the
Yeah.
only Turkish horror movie I've ever seen.
Exactly. The other Turkish films I've seen Turkish Superman, I've seen Turkish Star Wars. Like, these are the Turkish films that I've seen.
They have Turkish at the start.
Well, I don't think they're
That's the
actually
clue.
called that, but it's Turkish Superman is a stone cold ripoff of Superman.
Okay. I thought for a minute that these were movies called Turkish Superman, and it was classic old Superman, but a Turkish dude.
I mean, it basically is. But
This could be a pretty good subgenre.
But yeah, I don't think it's actually called Turkish Superman, but that's how it's marketed outside of
I
Turkey.
really want it to be called that. My frame of reference for Turkish art in general is pretty narrow, especially, I mean, I've read some Orhan Pamuk and watched this movie, and that's about it. So this was all new to me.
Yeah. After Khan got the budgets together, he shot this film over 28 nights, 0 permits, 0 permission. And it really feels like it. Like, you feel like in this movie you're in a place that you're not supposed to be.
Yeah, it's got a real Edgelands feel to it.
Like, it also feels like this is a real place. Like, they just found it. They stumbled into this hell building. And, like, you chuck a few frogs and a few blood eggs around and Bob's your movie.
Yeah, there's definitely a feeling of we found this decay, and therefore we're going to lean into it and use it, for our sick, twisted gains.
I mean, it's interesting how fully formed the short is. It's got a bunch of the same actors in it. The guy that plays Arda is the same guy. The guy that plays Yavuz is the same. Mehmet Karahoglu. I don't know how we're saying. I'm going to try not to say names as much as possible because I hate butchering people's names and I have no frame of reference for how you pronounce this surname.
I'm going to say the bit of the name that I can pronounce.
Mehmet.
Actually, maybe this is an edit out thing, but I used to do this with my classes at the start of the school year. I'd go through and learn to pronounce every single name with YouTube, and I thought I'd done that with this, and then I remembered that you can actually say these names in lots of different ways depending on lots of different things.
Yeah, like the region or the...
Yeah.
Yeah. So the character, Mehmet Karahoglu is in there playing a different role, not the primary antagonist, but he's in there. It's a bit more coherent, basically because of its brevity. It's not a plot. It's, you see 4 cops, they go to a place, fucked up shit happens, the end. I mean, ultimately, that is the plot of this movie.
Yeah, and some of the criticism I'd read about this movie online said that it was better as a short because it was tighter. Do you have any thoughts about that from the outset?
I prefer the feature. I think there being more characters, like more characterization, makes it feel like there are actual stakes. Like, there are no stakes in the short because it's cops. You don't like them, you don't hate them, they're just there. You sort of hate them because they're cops and that's who you are as a person. I'm speaking in generalities here because everybody in the world hates cops, right?
Well, fingers crossed. It's not much to ask, is it? Well, you used the phrase shithead cops in your introduction. I mean, yes, of course. But in this movie in particular, do you see these cops as shithead cops?
Absolutely. Like, this film hates cops and it wants you to hate cops. And it wants you to feel conflicted about who you side with. Like, shithead cops or the literal devil.
Who's your boy? The devil or the police?
Like, I guess, like, Arda and Ramsey eventually has some redeeming qualities. And they ultimately become the heroic pair.
But they're still cops.
But they're still cops. And also, Ramsey at the beginning wants or allows Yavuz to beat up the waiter. And is literally like, just beat him up or whatever he says. I'll take your gun so you don't shoot him. But you can just beat him up. Like, that's
I do love the
behavior.
lawless. Yeah, that's not what we would call good cop behavior for sure. It's totally expected in a lot of ways. I love the kind of distinction between cops and lawlessness all in one little van. Like, that's what I love about Bad Lieutenant, movies like that. Any movie with a corrupt cop, I'm in. I love it. I love the immediate tension it provides. I love the sort of slow unspooling of mayhem that tends to happen around that situation, basically at every turn. So as soon as I saw that these cops weren't exactly straight and narrow, uniform, belt and braces, by the book, beat boys, I realized that we were in for some kind of treat, because there's always a moral conflict. There's always a kind of a social conflict there. So when we're presented with these characters and they're essentially plainclothes goons, I was pumped. I was ready.
Yeah, like, not only are they cops that brag about sleeping with prostitutes, that brag about, like, getting violent and fucking people up, they also like football, Sam.
They do like football, and they like fucking chickens, and the two go hand in hand.
They, at one point, am I remembering this right, or am I a racist? Did one of them say that 70% of Turkish men lose their virginity to animals?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
That's a fact-checked statistic that we can verify here on the podcast. Early in the movie, I think the way that we're introduced to these characters is through their banter.
Yeah.
Through the way that they are bragging about fucking animals, and the way they're bragging about fucking hookers who end up to have huge dicks, and the way that they're bragging generally about themselves. And off to one side, we have one of the cops who has a terrible headache.
Yeah.
Is it Safi has the headache?
Yeah, Safi, he's having a weird time.
I thought he was hungover at first. What's the deal?
Like, I don't know what his actual situation is, but he's there to make you feel like stuff is weird and fucked up. A lot of this the early part of the film, I mean, the entire film really, but a lot of this early part of the film has this uneasy, sort of lurking dread, weird tension that sort of smothers everything. And he's a big part of that, just like this weird feeling of this guy these people are having a Reservoir Dogs Tarantino style conversation over here, and there's just this one guy melting down next to them. And it's just designed to make you feel like something's not right here.
Is that my role on a night out then? Because that's basically what I bring to any social event.
I don't think that's true. I think you're Mr. Pink.
Mr. Pink, thanks. I'll take that. That's high praise. I think a lot of that simmering tension and that slow creeping dread comes from stuff like really long, really close, intense shots of cutting meat and people walking around creepy, sort of wet-looking car parks with buckets of anonymous mystery meat. Hooded figures slipping in the back door, and this slow sort of planting of the idea that this narrative isn't quite what it seems. We have a scene of a young kid that opens the movie, and he hears his parents fucking, and he goes out to have a really bloody good listen, and then he's beckoned into a room by a kind of spectral gore-drenched hand, and then we cut to these cops having the time of their lives, and already we're sort of being slowly fed the idea that there's going to be some kind of whiplash transitions here, and you're not always going to know where you stand. So I think that's planted quite well, and it does build throughout the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, Safi ultimately runs off and spews in the toilet, and that's when we're treated to our first, I think, I don't know. I'm reluctant to say surreal because I might overuse it, but it is a slightly surreal visual of the frog in the soap dish.
Yeah, you also get a little glimpse of what I think is Baba behind him at one point.
Oh, interesting.
Well, like when he screams in the mirror, yeah.
Right.
He sees a little guy behind him, and we think,
how much of the folkloric religious side of this movie do you want to go into?
Quite a lot, I think. So I have some thoughts. So let's get into that a little bit later, because I have some pretty deep-ish thoughts. I don't know if you did much reading around it.
I did some, yeah. But I'm ready for the deep dicking of your folklore.
When you're watching a film that's not in your native language, sometimes I think it's hard to understand that performances maybe aren't that great. I think you can maybe get away with a lot when you're experiencing a performance via subtitles. But I think in that sort of scene where they're bullshitting in the restaurant, I think it's fairly clear that these aren't seasoned professional actors at this point. And I think it's a bit annoying, and you don't really believe that they would hang out if not for the circumstance of work. But the scene where they Wayne's World along to that song in the car,
Yeah.
I genuinely believe that they are great friends.
I think, yeah, in that scene, they definitely are. Like, just a bunch of Turkish lads being Turkish lads in that scene.
Yeah.
I think. I buy the friendship early on, and I buy the macho bullshit tension of cops trying to impress each other.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Your attention is pulled a little bit by subtitles. You're not paying as much attention to maybe like the facial nuance of the delivery, or some of the the sort of quick fire response stuff is lost in your kind of catch up reading, etc., etc. But what I loved is that in the subtitles they were calling each other dude and bro all the time. I thought that was pretty fun. Yeah, I actually, if we're doing kind of a end-to-end thing here, I found the performances to be pretty great. I would not, if you'd said to me this movie features the top Turkish talent of the day, I'd be like, great, let's go, and I would believe you. If you told me it featured average to poor performances from rank amateurs, I'd be like, well, I see a bit of that. But I was way more on the side of these guys can act. And it's worth saying guys, because this movie is a total sausage fest.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think, if we're talking about the performances, the absolute Oscar for best performance in Baskin, which is a very niche Oscar. I don't know why they bothered.
Yeah, that's having the biggest dick in the kindergarten right there. Oscar for best performance in the movie Baskin.
I mean, it's Baba, right? He is incredible.
Hard pass.
Really?
I think, for my money, that Yavuz is the best. He wins the Oscar because he's just such a convincing Turkish cop to me.
So I thought Baba was really intense and smouldering, and like it's an amazing performance, and it could feel kind of gross and exploitative.
Could. I think he's just being himself. I think that guy is like that all the time.
I don't think so.
I want to meet him and put it to bed once and for all. Not him. I don't want to put him to... Yeah, I do. I want to smack his bum and put him to bed because that was a naughty performance. I guarantee some of that wasn't in the script, young man.
Well, he was really involved with like developing that character.
Yes, understandable, yeah. He does live it fully to the max. I just can't, as an award-giving body, I can't give credence to a performance so absolutely disgusting from front to back. I'd rather give it to Yavuz just for the way he smokes a cigarette. That's how shallow I am.
Well, I think maybe this is your expulsion from the academy.
Could be. It had to happen sometime. You can't fire me, I quit. Yeah, I do agree. His performance is pretty fucking superb.
It's so unnerving and like, I don't know, like I say, it could feel exploitative to cast an actor with a facial deformity. There's a film called The Sentinel that was directed by, what's his name from those fucking insurance adverts? Michael Winner.
Okay.
Calm down, dear, that guy.
Yeah.
Where he uses people with facial deformities in like a scene to represent like demons climbing out of hell, and it feels gross, and not for the reason that he's going for. It just feels like this is stone cold exploitation.
Yeah.
Whereas I think this guy being more involved in creating the character, building the character, I don't know, it just really works for me.
I think that negates exploitation. If you have a performer who is invested in the process and the character and is consenting and is able to do so, I don't see a problem at all. I think the definition of exploitation cinema is pretty obvious. Somebody is being exploited for the gain of somebody else. And I think in this situation, it doesn't seem or feel like that at all. I mean, we have a wonderful and storied history of exploitation in Hollywood and in cinema all over the globe. But this doesn't feel like it takes part in that, really. It just feels like really good casting. Yeah, so you 100% back this performance, the casting. His delivery of some slightly questionable lines of dialogue, I think, is what sells it for me. He has to say some lines that could be from a different actor's less intense lips, somewhat throwaway, or exposition drippy, kind of too much.
Yeah, you also get that a little bit because it's like there's like a barrier between the performance and you because of the subtitles.
Yeah,
So like it might be that the translation is a bit off, or like you don't get quite the nuance of the where the emphasis is in the sentence and things
there
like
could be
that.
more poetry to it that we
Yeah.
lose in translation for sure. But I think in general, when he's on screen, there's not a single second that I don't believe that he is the devil.
Hmm.
I just don't like the performance. I respect it. I think it's absolutely bang on. It's just
Just makes you feel icky in your pants.
yeah, it like in all of my pants, even the ones in the cupboard, like all of them. But, that being said, I think there are some absolutely outstanding performances, and not just in that really fucking patronizing for people who aren't professional actors kind of way. I think every single person in this movie, honestly, without exception, I think really delivers. I don't see this as like a B-rate cast, trying to live up to like an A-rate script or anything like that. I think it's really well acted from start to finish to me. There's some moments of terror that I found maybe less believable than some of the other more earnest moments. Maybe it's slightly easier to act like you're mates with a bunch of idiot cops than it is to act like you're beholding the squirming throngs of hell. But whichever way you slice it, I wasn't taken out of the movie by the performances in any way.
No, fair
Mad
enough.
respect.
It's shot so beautifully, isn't it?
Yeah, the first 2/3 of this movie, I'm not going to keep saying that, but it's really majestically shot. There are some real, like, I kind of want to pause it and stare at this and take it in moments in the early parts of this movie.
There's like a meme type thing going around at the moment where like people play a scene of a film and an app or something, I don't know, one of those apps that they have now,
Heard of them.
yeah, captures a moment of it and makes it into an album cover.
Right.
And like basically any scene from this movie, any shot from this movie could be a painting, could be an album cover. It's got real reminded me of like painters like Bosch or Goya or Bruegel, like any of those people that sort of dabble with the occult and the hellish in there.
It's got a beautiful palette. The color work is brilliant. It's not just the sort of still frame shots that work really well for me. If you've watched the movie, it's obvious that these are really beautiful shots and they're really well constructed, and they're all at night, which again, we got to give so much credit to, this crew for filming this stunning movie all at night and pretty guerrilla style. But some of the placements of the camera are just really clever. There's a shot early in the movie in one of the restaurants where the camera is kind of above a ceiling fan and it just drops down below it really subtly. And it's a fantastic shot. There's a shot that goes in the back window of a van, like a tracking shot, like I think it's supposed to be from Bubba's walking perspective. A lot of these movement shots that could be done really badly and could be clunky and could completely ruin the flow of the movie are just expertly executed. There's shots inside the police station looking downwards into the stone stairwells that are just absolutely nauseating, like serious vertigo shots. And everything is strung together. It's not just like a series of beautiful vignette shots that sometimes you get in, semi-independent cinema or low-budget movies that are kind of tasked with carrying a shoddy narrative. These are really beautiful dream-like sequences that link together I've read some criticism of this, but what I think is actually quite a strong narrative driving towards a truly apocalyptic climax. And that's what cinematography is, right? That's what great cinematography does.
Absolutely.
So I've got nothing but praise for how this movie is shot and how it looks. It looks fucking gorgeous.
Yeah, I think there is so much weird stuff done with the camera as well that just makes you feel uncomfortable. Like there's that shot at the beginning, I think is the one that you're talking about, where the Steadicam, it's almost like a really slow version of that Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Which is just incredible, really nice.
Yeah, it's just meandering slowly towards the characters. It's got that Jaws Evil Dead feeling to it, but it's tasteful. It's not rushed. It feels confident. It's really strong.
Yeah, and there's like random shots that are just upside down. I mean, I say random. It's not random. It's designed to make you think and feel a certain way, but it's incredible. And like
I think that's my favorite shot of the movie is the police van driving across the bridge. It comes at them, and then the whole world tilts upside down. You see the van driving off. Feels like a simple move, and it feels something maybe to a sort of jaded Western audience, maybe feels like a slightly obvious visual trick. But to me, that was the big turning point in the movie, literally turning. That's what said to me, okay, here we go, something pretty substantial. There's a paradigm shift coming. Keep your eyes peeled.
I think my favourite shot of the movie takes place in the restaurant in like one of the sort of weird dreamy sequences. I mean, it's all weird dreamy sequences, right? But like,
yeah,
this one for sure. And it's like a dolly zoom. We all love a dolly zoom.
Fuck yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that the table and the chairs are also on a dolly track, because it's a dolly zoom and then some. It feels so intense and so fast that I also think, as well as the pan in or the shift in, dolly in and zoom out, I think also Arda is moving in that shot as well, which just adds an extra insane layer to it.
Yeah, because you don't just pull that off first try, do you? There's some serious, and in a 28-day shoot, there's a lot that goes into that, given the level of complexity of this movie. I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and everything just sort of lingers for way beyond what you would consider appropriate, but on purpose to make you feel fucking weird.
Yeah, as a horror device, I think the whole lingering on a slightly unsettling shot to give you enough time to think about it, to process it. The more of these kind of movies we do, the more movies you give me, the more of this I'm presented with. From right back to The Burning, what do we say about The Burning? There's loads of long, lingering, uncomfortable shots.
Yeah.
It's the same here. Long, lingering, uncomfortable shots of cooking meat. Like, it's just so unsettling. And that's deliberate. Like you said, there's nothing random in this movie. That's a deliberate attempt to fill you with unease.
I think it happens sometimes in shots where basically nothing is happening. The van is sort of driving away slowly, and just watching it from a fixed point in the road just get smaller and smaller as it drives away, and you're like, I want to have some power in this relationship, but I am entirely powerless, and I'm just watching the movie drive away.
I've been left behind. The story has gone on without me. You can even hear chatter and music fading off into the distance, and you're just left with the sound of the night and a clicking sign, and you think, oh shit, where do I go now? You're completely alone.
It's like, it's so disorienting. It's masterful, I think. From like a first time feature director. I think it's worth saying that, like, Can Everett is Turkish. He studied film at Canterbury in the UK, so he probably has this pretty sort of fucked up sense of like filmmaking, like these two sort of colliding ideologies almost. And it's pretty clear that he is a big genre film fan. I think you can see a lot of Dario Argento in the lighting of this film, and also a lot of like Nicholas Winding Refn.
I got nods to old Hammer horror movies as well. There was just little glimpses of kind of everything that you're raised with as a kind of a classic English horror fan and somebody who likes American horror. But then it feels to me like a best of both worlds. Here's like ladle upon ladle of Turkish folklore reference. Here's some crazy, horrible religious overtones, and here's Turkish language, and here's authentic Turkish locales and characters, and then here's a pretty thoroughly modern Western sensibility in terms of the storytelling, and lots of risk taking. Like, how brave for a first-time feature director from Turkey to leave the audience by the side of the road in the Turkish wilderness as the movie careens off into the night. It's such a bold move. I love it. Because
of like the I want to say innate Turkishness of it, but I know so little about Turkey and what it means to be Turkish that I'm guessing based on this movie alone. But like, it's such a completely different sensibility to what you're used to. And it's like it goes beyond even like what you get when you watch like a European movie from a country where you don't see an awful lot of European movies. It feels like it's just building on all of the things that you already know. It's using very familiar building blocks and then taking it into skewering it with a different point of reference.
Good kebab reference there. I like that.
Yeah, it makes it feel very different and very weird.
And it's the weirdness married with the kind of breadcrumb trail build up, these dreamy camera placements, these risky shots. There's a shot where I think it's Arda's having a one of his famous dream sequences, and he falls backwards into a huge pool of water, and nothing that you expect happens, but these gigantic hands reach into the water. It's obviously just a clever perspective shot, but these huge hands in slow motion go into the water to scoop him out. And that was the enduring image for me. And that couldn't be more in contrast to what is probably the enduring image for most of the audience, which is the final third of the movie, which is all red hot torture. But that cool, cold, silent, giant pair of reaching hands into the water just stuck out for me as resonating so deeply with me about dreaming. If you can tap into that universal experience of dreaming with a visual and a feeling and an atmosphere that resonates with an audience, a broad audience, a wide audience, then you've hit onto something in terms of communicating your message as a movie maker that's essentially universal. I think that was an amazing shot.
I think the defining image of this film for me is when Baba pulls out a bit of Apo's intestines and then bites it and a bit of shit comes out.
Yeah, that happens too. Do you think that, okay, real quick, is that the most fucked up bit of the movie? What's the most fucked up bit of the movie for you?
I mean, it's got to be when it's got to be when Yazoo fucks the goat person.
I thought that was fine. The bit that really fucked me up, and I don't think this is in the script, okay? I think this is our man Mehmet going a little bit too far. The scene where he stabs Yavuz in the eye with a little hooked knife and yet repeatedly stabs the eyeball. He then licks the wound. He sticks his tongue into the mashed up eyeball. It's a really quick shot, but it's really fucked up.
I love that bit of special effects in that moment because absolutely Spielberg's it. Like, never lingers on a shot long enough for it to look shit and fake.
It's incredibly well done.
It almost gets there a couple of times, and you can see that it's not real, but your brain doesn't have time to really put those shots together into cohesive thing that says that's a prosthetic. It's really well done. Everything in this movie is really well done.
So I think it's pretty smoothly edited. I think is pretty key there. The best effect in the world can look like garbage if you just even a fraction of timing is out. Or the problem with movie stabbing in general is always that the person being stabbed doesn't do what real people getting stabbed do, and that undermines a lot of the realism, which kind of takes you out of the real fear of being stabbed. It's where slashers fall down a lot of the time, is that for the audience, for me in particular, there's no real fear of the vicarious stabbing because it looks so fake all the time. And I think they circumnavigated this because we know that if you get stabbed in the eye, you don't just hold your eye in place and take the stabbing, do you? You flail around like a lunatic and you pull your head around and you freak out, etc., etc. So the fact that they edit it so that felt naturalistic is, a gargantuan feat of movie making to make me really believe that guy got stabbed in the eye and then had the socket licked by crazy little Baba Demon Man is, that's pretty special.
There's also another shot that's like this, which is where I think it's Apo and he vomits. And it's incredible. And there are no cuts. And I really believe that vomit just came out of him.
There's 2 puke scenes. Well, there's 3 puke scenes in this movie, I think. The first puke scene is Safi in the toilet.
Yeah.
And then I thought it was Yavuz who puked later on. But somebody pukes for real. Somebody actually does a real puke. Because you can tell the difference, right? You're a pro.
Yeah, I've done a lot of puking at train stations on Sunday mornings.
Yep, I've both puked a lot and seen a lot of puking, and I've seen a lot of movie puking. And the 2 things that piss me off more than anything in movies is fake smoking and fake puking.
Yeah.
Smoke for real, puke for real. That's my... Put that on my gravestone.
People who hold a cigarette, and it's like, you've never held a cigarette in your life. That just looks unnatural in your hands.
Yeah, but also, how can you say you're a professional if you run up to a toilet with your cheeks bulging and you just spit the sick into the toilet and then make some noises? Give me real sick any day of the week. You can see it come up from the stomach and out through the mouth, and that's what I paid my I didn't pay anything for this, but that's what I pay for, is to see real people do real sick.
Yeah.
So much respect to this film for doing real sick at least once.
I am interested. If you're out there, get in touch. Let us know. Is that a guy really being sick?
It better be.
Absolutely better be. I mean, it doesn't have to be.
Impact my rating. It does have to be, Jamie. Don't say that. It does.
Is it not enough that it looks incredibly convincing?
Yeah,
I think it's more impressive.
If it's fake, I'm astonished.
Yeah.
Look at it that way.
It's more impressive if it's a fake sick.
Agreed. Yeah. I'm glad we got to the bottom of that. We both know how we feel.
Yeah.
Thoroughly second.
Come on, man. Does that thing even work? No. There's nothing out there. It's just dead air.
We go into this incredible location, this Ottoman era police station, which is alternately lit as like blue-grey monolithic stone structure, and then at times red and creepy as hell, and there's a lost doomed policeman slowly banging his head against the wall and gibbering with blood running down his face, and it's one of the creepiest set pieces I've seen in a movie in a long time, and I'm teed up for this long labyrinthian journey down into the bowels of this place where horrible things have happened, and where, obviously Turkish police doing horrible things to people since the Ottoman Empire has infested this building with evil or created a portal or something. And what we end up getting is some slightly Silent Hill-esque people wrapped in plastic, writhing around and jerking quickly. And I just don't find stuff like that scary at all. I think as soon as you wrap plastic around a human, I'm out. It just bores me. What are your thoughts? You must have seen a lot of people, a lot of flesh wrapped in plastic in your time, Jamie. What are you thinking at this point in the movie?
Hold my hands up here and be honest. I remembered the last third of this movie very differently. Mm-hmm. I had pictured like Satan's Hollow, Doom, Eternal style, like Gru dripping from the walls. Everything feels a bit organic.
Yeah.
And it's not like that. I just remembered it wrong. I think I superimposed my idea of hell over the end of this movie.
It's kind of the point, right?
Yeah, but not on the screen. That isn't on the screen. So it sort of surprised me again when I was like, oh, it's just a place. I mean, I buy all the jerky writhing stuff. Like we've seen it a lot, but it works. I think there's a way of making people look really demonic and weird, and it's put a bag over their head and cover them in goop and make them jiggle around.
I think in that situation, this is the only point in the movie where I was like, I'd just walk through that. It makes me think of, cheesy scare nights where you go to a field and people jump out at you. To me, it's that. Like, I'll just walk through it. No one's going to hurt you.
Well, so I experience those very differently. I get terrified at like Halloween Horror Nights or whatever. There was a moment in the Ghostbusters scare maze a couple of years ago where I make Kaz walk in front of me because she's shorter than me. So she walks behind me.
You can still see. You've got a meat shield, but you can still see.
Absolutely. So, but like we were in this Ghostbusters scare maze and all the lights went off for, I don't know, felt like 40 years, probably 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. And they came back on and there was just a dude stood in front of Kaz. And she was so scared that she cried. It was amazing.
I love these too. I go to my local Scarefest. It's called Scaresville at Kentwell Hall, and it's great. But there's always key moments where I just completely check out of the how much you invest in it, how much you want to be there, and if you don't buy in, right, those things suck. If you're just in a bad mood or you got a headache or something, you can't quite get there. Same as sex, I guess. It's like if you're not into it, it's no fun. So you have to buy into the max, and I'll buy into the max, and I'm absolutely there for the most part. As soon as someone wrapped in plastic or a guy in a clown mask comes out, I'm like, oh fucking hell, I'm in a field. I'm 38 years old. I'm walking around a field. Someone's shouting at me in a fucking mask. And I just get really depressed. So if you can take that out of this movie and out of horror in general, please, all directors, I'm in for the max. But until then, until this trope is gone, I'm just bummed. Like, it's a personal thing. It just does nothing for me. So,
like, I feel like this is like a fundamental difference between me and you because I don't get scared watching horror films and sometimes you do.
Oh, sometimes? Are you kidding me? Yeah. If it's a good horror movie, I'm scared from start to finish.
But I am terrified in these quote-unquote real-life situations. There was a night at Halloween Horror Nights, where outside of the context of scare mazes, they have these like scare zones where they have different people in like different themed costumes. A bunch of them had fake chainsaws.
Yep.
And one of them jumped out at me with their fucking fake chainsaw. And it scared me so bad that I think I had like very minor PTSD. Like anytime I heard a chainsaw, I would shit myself. And we had to just go home.
I'm not laughing at you.
No, I mean, it's funny.
Well, I kind of am. It is funny.
It's funny. But like I was so scared and so horrified by the sound of chainsaws. And they were also right in front of the gate, so we had to like walk a stupid way to avoid them. And then there was a day when we were in a different part of the park because I always avoided that scare zone because those chainsaw folk were horrible and terrifying.
They are incredibly loud, those fake chainsaws. They're just, freewheeling, revving engines. They're really loud.
And so we were in a different section where there was other scary stuff happening, but I could deal with it. There was like a level of, I was terrified, but I could deal with it. And then I walked around a corner and one of these chainsaw guys, out of his zone, jumped out at me with his chainsaw. I almost flattened him. I almost jumped into the lake and killed myself.
It's a lot of shit yourself, flatten him, jump into the lake and kill yourself.
Like it was horrible.
Yeah, and he's out in America. You could sue him for all he's worth for being out of his zone. No, I hear you. That we are fundamentally different there because I will get so scared of horror movies that I'll have to have a little reality check and turn the light on for a minute and walk around and sit back down. Whereas at these things, I have to work really hard just to even fucking be there, just to be present. Some bits scare me more than others. Like when you're going, there's a barn and it's all done up like a dark maze inside, and people just do things like bang on the walls, and there's dry ice and it's foggy and creepy, and it's all the stuff I'm scared of in movies as well. But I feel like I'm in it. I'm really there. As soon as there's a guy in a jumpsuit and a mask and a chainsaw, I'm like, well, he can't touch me. He's not allowed because this is all fake, and I'm out of it immediately. I can't control that invasive realism. I need to work on that. I think because it's the opposite with movies. I think that's why I love horror movies so much, is I still get that kick of genuine fear, whereas paying money to have a failed actor shout Latin at me in a dark barn is something I can live without.
I think I agree about guys in suits. There was like a Stranger Things maze and it was like people dressed as the characters, and it's like you're obviously not him. Like I can see you're not Dustin. I
hope you said that to the Dustin.
I didn't. I scampered through because there was also scary shit happening. But the people in suit stuff that really worked for me, particularly this year, the year of Halloween Horror Nights that I'm talking about, there was an Us maze, and there was a Killer Clowns from Outer Space maze.
Oh, cool! And
they both used this exact same trope, and it worked all 5 times I went through both of those mazes.
Oh my god, what was it?
So, like at the end of Us, have you seen Us?
Yeah.
So at the end of Us, they do that Hands Across America thing.
Uh-huh.
And so they had loads of mannequins in like the Us outfits, all holding hands, and you have to walk past them. But I don't know, every 6th person was a real dude that would like, "Bah."
Yeah.
And obviously that's scary because someone's going, "Bah," at you. Obviously, they probably made a better noise than that. I'm not. That's why I don't get the Universal dollars. But
you're not a trained scarer.
No. And it was the same in the Killer Clowns one. There was like, they were sort of dotted around the room, and there were obviously very still mannequins. They could have all been people, just to make it great. I didn't memorize the formation. Every couple of dudes was a dude, and they again.
And that got you good every time you went through.
Absolutely, because
holy crap!
I would say it was worse the 2nd or 3rd time because I knew it was coming, and I was just I was braced, anticipating for it, and then it happened anyway. It still scared me despite the fact that I was braced. Also,
so those guys are like, fucking hell, this is his 5th time. You think you'd see it coming by now.
Also, there was like an off-brand, like The Abyss undersea monster type. It was kind of like the Thing, but underwater.
Right.
Maze. And there was like a thing that came down from the roof that was like a monster. And it was clearly just a guy's hand in like a little puppet thing.
Yeah.
But he just wouldn't stop going. And I just couldn't get past. And the staff member, who also were there to give you that little reality check, but they were like, you need to go, you're holding up the line. I was like, I can't go, the guy's doing his thing. And they're like, you need to go under
you
it.
have to walk through it. It's not real.
But it was a real guy. He was fully gibbering with his fucking hand.
So this is Halloween Horror Nights at Universal?
Yeah.
I went to that last year as well.
This was 2019.
Oh, okay. So I went last year and we were on tour. It was our one day off. It was Halloween night and we went and did the Halloween Haunted House. And we queued for 2 hours in the baking, stifling heat in that weird like back lot area that doesn't feel like Disney. It's just like booming, distant music and sad people sitting around on the floor. I had to summon all of my, resolve, and I dug deep into my terror reserves to stay in the game for 2 fucking hours before we went into this house, and it was probably over in about 4 minutes.
Yeah, I think so. We bought frequent fright passes or whatever, so we could go as many times as we wanted over the 2-week period that we were in Florida. Nice. And we went on Halloween, and it was absolutely categorically the worst night.
Yeah, it was rough.
Because everyone's like, oh, it's Halloween, let's go to Halloween Horror Nights. Like yeah, fair dues, but also I'm on holiday and I'm more important than you.
So move out the way. I tell you, the person who got it right, it turns out, was Toby Jegg of Red Scare Industries, who was present for this trip and who went on, I don't know, maybe no rides, I'm not entirely sure, who just walked around and drank the whole time and went and watched the dragon shoot fire in the Harry Potter thing and did maybe like a couple of vaguely Universal-ish things, but for the most part was just cane and White Claws. And got so hammered that he tried to call an Uber from the center of Universal Studios, which is impossible, and disappeared. And we saw him about 45 minutes later walking around staring at his phone with the Uber on it and a burger in his hand, saying he was trying to find the exit. So Toby fucking nailed it. We stood around for 2 hours waiting for a 3-minute walk around kind of a haunted house, and he had the time of his life. So much respect to you, Mr. Jegg.
I think the absolute best use of your time at Halloween Horror Nights is ride the mummy ride over and over and over again because there's no queue.
Yeah, we did the mummy ride first of all because there was nobody there and it was really good.
It's the greatest ride known to man.
The flame ceiling, awesome.
Absolutely love it.
A very good ride, yeah. To be fair, I don't want to talk shit about the actual haunted house because I think if I hadn't waited 2 hours for it and felt like I was putting 2 bands through waiting 2 hours for it to go through it, then I would have thought it was incredible. You get to stand outside the Myers house and it's built in such a clever way that it feels like a full size. It feels like the Myers house. It feels that big, and it's obviously not, which is really clever. But you're only there for a couple of seconds, and someone ushers you on to the next bit.
Yeah,
there's some great stuff. Like Michael pops out in really convincing movie-like ways. Whoever's playing Michael is absolutely perfect. You get a Sam Loomis look-alike. You get loads of cool stuff in this house, and you get to walk around what feels like real-life Haddonfield, which is incredible. But it was over way too quickly. It was way too short.
I think that's the vibe on those. But yeah, not going on Halloween is the trick.
Yeah, I think that's probably the one. We thought we were being, we thought, yes, it's Halloween, let's go. We went out for Mexican food beforehand, and we all got there like super pumped to fully razz Universal on Halloween. It was like, oh, okay, this is literally the end of Baskin, it turns out. Everywhere you go, it's eye-gouging hell.
There's another like scare attraction is it in like Kissimmee or some like little podunk bumfuck around Orlando, and they have a buried alive simulator.
Oh my god!
You put like 50 cents in this thing, and it simulates the experience of being buried alive. It is categorically the most horrible thing I've ever done in my life.
What the fuck? Are you in like a glass box or something? What happened?
You're in a coffin.
Oh, good.
You don't go anywhere. It just sort of it's magic.
Not many things that start with "you're in a coffin" end well. That sounds rough as guts.
And again, it's like you're expecting it to be horrible, and then it's horrible in an entirely different way, which is a thing that happens in Baskin. So as they're driving towards what's the place called, Inside Jack, something like that. As they're driving
the
towards
crime scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's called what? Inside Jack.
Well, this is one of the pivotal points in the plot, right? These cops are radioed as backup to go to this town to attend to some sort of unknown crime,
Yeah.
and that's how they end up, being blown off the road and wandering to this abandoned police station.
But yeah, so before they get blown off the road, you know they're driving down this horrible dark road. You know that something's going to jump out and scare them.
Mm-hmm.
And you're waiting for it. The shot is framed so you're over everybody's shoulders. The center of the windscreen is directly in front of you.
Yep.
And you're just waiting for it, and you wait for it for, again, an inappropriately long amount of time.
Yeah.
And then it just doesn't happen. The shot changes, and boom, it happens. They all get out of the van, and they have a look around, and there's a bunch of fucking frogs and no little naked dude that jumped in front of the van, which I'm guessing, again, is Baba.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's loads of frogs. Maybe all the frogs jump together. They get back in the van. They drive 2 feet, and then they smack into a dude and drive into the lake. It just blows your mind. It's like, it's so absolute bait and switch, and then bait, and then whammo.
It's a real like stutter step action sequence that does totally put you on the back foot for what comes next, which is just a dip in the pace. Again, you've got long lulls and kind of hypnotic journey feelings, and people saying things like, "It feels like we've been on this road for 10 years," and then wham, 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 and then nothing.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's not an accident. That's artfully crafted. We've got Yava's drawing a dick on the window.
Loved that.
Yep, superb. Never comes back. Means nothing. I don't think. Like
it's just a little insight into his character. Yeah, like he's a shitty little dickhead.
Yep. One of my favorite scenes in this movie is one of my favorite scenes in every movie that it happens in, is the displaced people around a campfire in the wilderness of a really scary place. I love that as a thing in movies, and that whole scene for me was just drenched in unease. It was the beginning of the end as far as what I liked in the movie is concerned, and for me it's like the last scene where I'm pretty much certain that everyone's going to die before everyone goes to hell. I love those characters. I thought they did a great job, most of them wordlessly, but there's the one guy who leads them to the police station who runs away and says fuck the police, which I knew you'd love.
I did love that.
But again, the lead into this final location is great for me, and the location is kind of the star of the movie in a lot of ways as far as I'm concerned. An abandoned Ottoman police station in the middle of fucking nowhere, surrounded by, creepy people living by bonfires next to rivers with a million frogs. It's got so many fairy tale overtones, but it's so drenched in this religious symbolism that the whole time you just feel like you're slowly being put through a mangle. It's brilliant.
Yeah, so why don't we talk a little bit about the religious and folklore-based stuff?
Sure.
I did a bunch of research, and I landed on a bunch of stuff that said that this is an allegory or a story that's sort of based in Zoroastrianism. But I didn't really know what that was. It's not something that I'm massively familiar with. But I did a bunch of reading, and I understood that these characters are meant to represent these people from this religion, this sort of super, super old religion that basically predates most of the religions at this point. Yeah,
it's an ancient monotheistic Iranian religion, right?
And so the presentation of Baba in this is similar to their presentation of the anti-god, the devil.
The Godant.
Yeah, the Godant.
Not Taran Baba.
Not Taran Baba.
A different one.
Yeah, so the baddie in Zoroastrianism.
The baddie. Yeah.
I found also a lot of stuff that refers to Taran Baba as this sort of folklore creature in Turkish folklore that steals children.
Yeah.
And I guess that's meant to be how Baba is presented in this. I think obviously the dream sequence that we see at the beginning, or the sequence that we see at the beginning that we later discover to be a dream sequence, I think is meant to show that Baba tries to take Arda at that point, fails, and then has ultimately been chasing him his entire life. And
that's the impression I got, yeah.
And Renzi's been ultimately protecting him and keeping him one step ahead of Baba. The issue with this Taran Baba story that I found referenced in a bunch of places I could only ever find reference to it in pages that were published after this movie was released. And
Interesting.
in any of my usual sort of folklore sources, I can't find any reference to Taran Baba at all. And it's absolutely the kind of folklore that would break through. Child stealing demons is such a trope of like worldwide folklore.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's hundreds of them. I made a little list here. You've got the Lamia, you've got the Calipilot, you've got the Kurtik, you've got Basti, you've got Kikimora, you've got Krampus, you've got Lamashtu, you've got Namahaga, you've got Moloch. There's hundreds and hundreds more. And
Who's your favourite?
I mean, I'm a big fan of a Krampus.
Yeah, you love a Krampus.
I do. I also like the Lamia.
I'll take a Moloch any day of the week.
Yeah?
Give me a right good Molochin. I do love Krampus.
Yeah.
As a big fan of German markets, I can tell you I've seen my fair share of Krampus.
Krampi.
But I mean, I found it quite hard to find anything with any kind of serious veracity backing up some of the mad claims I read online about this movie. But I wouldn't say I did research. I just kind of Googled some random bits and tried to string something together. But the Zoroastrianism connection seems pretty strong, and it does seem that this movie is rooted, at least in a lot of its imagery and some of the narrative turns, in, at least reference to that religion, which I like. I think it works. It's better for me that way than just this is a bit in the movie where everyone goes to hell and it's all horrible torture porn.
Yeah, I can see that. I just found it so weird that all these people are talking about Taran Baba and I can't find any reference to it. It really...
Maybe that's how, urban legends are born.
These people are obviously getting it from somewhere.
Maybe each other.
And it annoys me that I just can't find out where that is.
Did you try Googling Taran Baba?
I did try Googling Taran Baba. I also looked on Wikipedia where the page had been removed because there was no citations.
There you fucking go.
And I looked through all of the books of Balkan, I've got 2 books on Balkan folklore.
Yeah.
Nothing specifically around Turkey. But I looked at a bunch of world folklore books. And like I say, it's absolutely the sort of thing that would break through. People love a story of a child stealing demon.
Oh god, yeah, especially one that does it in your dreams. Are you kidding me? Where the fuck did Freddy Krueger come from?
Literally.
It's not that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
So the idea that I couldn't find anything, and everything that I could find literally was dated after the release of this movie. I just don't know. I would love it if there was someone out there who could tell me that it is real and that it is based in real folklore, and maybe it just hadn't crossed over. But in a world of the internet where every book is translated or translatable, but I did a LexisNexis search, which basically searches through hundreds and hundreds of newspaper archives.
Did you ask Jeeves?
I didn't ask Jeeves. I did a pretty in-depth literature search using all of the libraries that I have access to through my job.
Mm-hmm.
And not one mention of Taran Baba outside of stuff that was posted after this movie. The stuff that I did find that was posted after this movie's release date was Russian, and it was part of a song, and the song was about how much fun we're having. And it's it was just it's almost like a scat noise of just joy, glee.
I'm going to go as far as to say that you have gone to incredible lengths to, for some reason, verify the existence of Taran Baba.
Because I love shit like that.
All odds. There is nothing to suggest that this is real except some reviewers.
Yeah, I mean, there are pages that aren't Baskin related that mention it. But again, they are posted after the release date of this film. And I mean, I went to these great lengths because I really wanted it to be true. And I just wanted there to be another cool bit of folklore that I wasn't aware of that I could dig into. And it would have some amazing imagery next to it. There's a really amazing piece of sort of, I can't remember if it's Turkish or Balkan folklore that I stumbled on today. It's like a frog demon that if you annoy it by swimming all weird, it'll drown you. So don't be a dick when you're in the water.
Don't swim weird.
Yeah, don't anger the Doyonyov. I mean, it might not be called that, something like that. But
I love it. I love frogs, and I love giant frogs.
Yeah.
And I love real life frogs, and especially in D&D, a giant frog's one of my favorite mythical creatures. I did a bit of research into some of the shots and some of the things I liked about the movie to see if any of it was rooted in anything deeper, because I was struggling to connect thematically some of the key action points with some of the character motivation and some of the resolution essentially of the movie. I couldn't quite figure out if I was being thick and just not connecting stuff, or if maybe there was a little bit of grind in some of the themes. And I found that in Zoroastrian, I guess, mythology, there is such a thing as a bridge of judgment that leads souls to the land of the dead. And then a demon appears and takes souls to the House of Lies, which is sort of loosely related to hell. And that, for me, kind of explained the tilting upside down bridge shot, that was them crossing over some kind of invisible barrier into the land of the dead / hell, which I thought was really cool. If that's intended and it's not me just, putting icing on icing, then yeah, I think that's pretty great.
I read a bunch of this stuff too, and I think that's what Kyle Everett was going for. And it's sort of lovely. I mean, it feels religious, even when you're just watching it and you have no idea. I can't imagine too many people are watching this going, oh yeah, this is Zoroastrianism.
Yeah.
But it still feels sort of uniquely religious. It also feels way more satanic than any other movie about Satan or about like demons. Like it just has this ominous hanging presence of evil.
I also wasn't really convinced that they'd gone to hell, though. I thought these people could just be there. They could just be in that building, actually on the material plane, in the world that we live in, doing fucked up shit in the basement of an abandoned building. I didn't feel transported, unfortunately.
Well, I think that's addressed by Baba in the film, isn't it? Hell isn't a place that you go. You carry hell with you always.
Yeah, but I thought that was him saying, you're manifesting this hell in your mind, or this, what's happening around you now is an inaction of your religious debt, in that you have sinned and you are being punished for it. But I don't know, there's endless possibilities there, really, isn't there?
Yeah, I think the strapline, or like the blurb on the back of the DVD, or on all websites where this is streaming, or IMDb or whatever, there are no qualms about it. It's going to hell. But I think when you watch the film, there is a level of, well, it could be this or it could be that. It could be a bunch of fucked up people doing horrible things, or it could be a bunch of fucked up demons doing horrible things.
Yeah, that's where I struggled.
Or it could be real hell, or it could be all in the mind of Arda, who is fucked up in his own way.
And that's the thing about the whole dream / flashback / dream within a dream narrative going on in this movie, is that, in all honesty, on one watch, I don't think anyone can be expected to know where they stand at the end of it, unless you're the sharpest viewer going. It's really hard to track where you are. And I'm not saying that as a criticism. I love movies that essentially disregard the orientation of the audience and just, spins you around and sees where you pop out. I think that's great as a device. But I do like to really know I'm in hell when I'm in hell.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I don't want to just walk down some stairs and be like, okay, there's some slightly weird looking people doing horrible things in a basement, because that could be Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That could be, anything where you go from something outside that feels quote unquote normal to something inside that feels horrible. For me, a cynical take on the end of this movie is that it's a cop-out.
Is that a pun?
Yeah, it's a cop-out, literally. It's fucking ripping a cop's guts out is what it is. It's so if I'm being really cynical, then it's the ultimate cop-out, because it feels to me like they've written and directed a very layered, clever, psychological, religious horror thriller with stunning visuals that gets to a point where it can't be resolved, so they go into a basement and start stabbing each other in the eyes, fucking goats, and ripping each other's guts out. It feels like we're undermining everything we've built so far because we can't resolve. So we're going to throw a load of gory horror tropes into the mangler and see what comes out the other end. That's the most cynical view of it I can possibly take. And that leaves you feeling let down, and it just feels like freak show gore. The other end of that is that it's an incredibly clever manifestation of the individual hells of the collective cops and their demented psyche, and the fact that the idea of cops is fucked. The idea of the hierarchical power dynamic, the rigid and thoughtless enforcement of arbitrary rules, societal control, corruption, all of that stuff manifested into a small room full of horrible stuff happening. But I feel like that's a little bit generous, to be totally honest. It felt like a mystery that couldn't be solved, so here's a shit show. What's your take?
It is a mystery that can't be solved. I think you can solve it if you sit down and think about it. But like, a lot of people don't experience films like that. A lot of people watch a film and go, "Oh, that's finished now," and move on with their lives.
Unlike us.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the great things about having these conversations with you, is that it forces you to think differently, or like critically, and try and understand what's happening in a film. I don't think that this film is meant to be solved. I don't think that you're meant to understand what is happening in this weird sort of circular narrative. Like, did they ring for their own backup? Like,
oh wow! This is it. See, I hadn't even thought of that. That's incredible. Because when they get there, the guy he's not coherent, so he can't tell them that yes, he called them for backup.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, Jamie. Could be. Shit.
And like, obviously, Arda is the one that gets hit by the van that forces them into the lake. But then when it
them
goes into
calling
the
for
lake,
their own backup makes this 5 times scarier to me. I just got a real chill go down my spine. That's the kind of thing that creeps me out in ways I can't even explain. Oh, talk about illustrate your point. Yes, that's the importance of discussing a movie after it's over, because you realise shit that you never even dreamed of when you're watching it.
Like, you don't see it happen. Like, they're trying to call for backup at one point, and the radio isn't working. So
my legs jiggling uncontrollably at the thought of this new spin. See, it's layers like that make this movie work, because you want to talk about it. You want to, and I agree, I don't think it is supposed to be resolved. The nature of it being so cyclical, the fact that Arda, the van runs over a guy, they go through hell, Arda runs out into the road and is run over by the same van. That is unresolvable, because that is cyclical by nature. But there's so much happening that layers up to that point. If you don't stop and discuss it at the end of the movie, I don't think you're going to have a satisfying experience of watching it. It's just the hell bit that bums me out. Everything else I thought was genuinely masterful.
Yeah. Well, so like, some people have pointed out that when the van is in the water in the shot at the end, there are no people in it. But I didn't buy that, really.
Me neither. I mean,
I saw it as that they'd got out of the van and they had gone back into the hell, and they were just living this hell on a loop forever.
Yeah,
because that's what hell is.
Yeah, no hope of escape, no resolution, nothing. Yeah, absolutely. That didn't necessarily play into the fact that we're kind of supposed to believe that Arda has killed Baba, or at least vanquished in some way Baba. But for me, it doesn't matter if you kill the devil, you stay in hell.
Yeah,
like you're still there. And I think for a director who I know so little about, apart from this movie, but he shows us so much that we're really supposed to see. I think if that van was supposed to be empty, we'd get a shot of the empty van from the inside. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think they've left the van to go to the campfire by the time that shot pans around. But again, totally open to speculation, which is why it's so cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it doesn't make sense to me for a cyclical narrative like this to be resolved so quickly.
No.
Like, we've only just discovered the cyclical narrative, and now it's sorted. Like, that feels cheap to me.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a movie that generally up until this point has taken the cheap toll road. Yeah,
so if that is the case, I'll just choose to not believe it.
Yeah, I think I would do the same. I choose to not believe that the final third of this movie is a cop-out, and that it is just gore for gore's sake, and that it's played to win over an American audience who wants to watch an entire movie and will sit through, long ponderous scenes to get to a gory payoff. I think there may be an element of that, but I would rather focus on everything else in the movie than let that bum me out. And I think it does so much so well that final bit that isn't to my taste, who cares? Still great.
Right. Why don't we take a little break? We'll come back, we'll rate it, and we'll say so long to Baskin.
Let's do it.
Whoa, holy shit. I guess that's why they call it Phantom Power.
Sammy.
Jamie.
On what scale are you rating Baskin, and what do you rate it as?
I'm going to rate it on the 7 circles of hell,
Okay.
and I'm going to give it 5 circles of hell. If you were asking me just for the first 2/3 of the movie, it'd get all 7 circles. The end of the movie, I know I've hung up on it a little bit, but it sounds like I'm crying. An emotional moment. I do think it's excellent. The end of the movie, the final section, I think for gore fans and people who love this kind of horror movie, I think it's absolutely flawless. You're totally right. The character of Baba is convincingly evil, demonic. The close-up shots of his lips moving as he talks, the softness of his voice, the kind of attentive, almost stoned way that he commits horribly graphic acts of violence on people very, very gently, really unnerving.
I think a thing that's really unnerving as well is when Yazov is having sex with the goat person. He's just so encouraging.
Oh, he's really into it. He tells him not to let him down.
Yeah.
Helps him get a stiffy. I mean, the worst bit of all that is all the like bag-headed, plastic clad writhing minions are all like masturbating and licking eggs and stuff. Like, that's so gross. See, but all of this stuff puts you in a place that's very uncomfortable, and that's what the movie does from start to finish in lots of different ways. It is a masterclass in discomfort from front to back for me.
Yeah.
It's really tastefully shot. It has lots of unsettling narrative jumps that I find really pleasing that would maybe frustrate some audiences, but I think it's really well done. Eerie, sometimes surreal, ticking a lot of boxes for me. A fun, breadcrumby plot about a bunch of crooked cops. Again, just smashing it. Feels exotic because it's Turkish, and it's showing you things that you wouldn't normally see in a movie of this type from a Western studio, for example. My favorite thing about the movie maybe is how shadow is used as much as light. Shadow is his best friend in this movie. It's shot at night, obviously, so to create those shadows, it's all artificial light. It's just very cleverly done. A dreamscapey feel to a genuinely terrifying film. I'm giving it 5 circles of hell. Not one that I would rush to watch again, but one that I definitely enjoyed every painful second of.
Nice.
What about you, Jamie? What are you rating this on? How do you feel about it? What are your sum up thoughts?
Okay, so, I mean, I have a complex relationship with this film in that it is incredible and makes me feel horrible and bad about myself and weird. It does everything that it wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
Can and Co. have set out to make a movie that just makes you feel completely off kilter and wrong, and like it doesn't end with the credits. Like you don't stop feeling weird when the credits roll.
Yeah.
Like it sits with you. It sits on your chest like a sleep paralysis demon.
Mm-hmm.
Just keeps going for ages and ages, just lingering, niggling in the back of your head. Like, ooh, remember that bit? Ooh.
I couldn't go to bed. I had to watch the start of another movie until I was really tired and then go to bed.
Like it just keeps. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
What a gift!
Yeah.
It's a huge, rock solid baby log dropped out of a goat woman's ass.
I think that there are moments in this that you just can't forget. Like when most times when you see people slit people's throats in movies, it's like a nice quick whoosh, and then you get a second of relief, and then the blood comes. But not in this. Like he is going at his Renzi's throat.
Yeah.
He's like just like hacking at it slowly. It's
just really attentively sawing at it. It's so unnerving.
Just keeps going and going and doesn't. There's no sense of relief at any point of this movie, especially not when the credits roll and it's that weird, intense, like industrial Come to Daddy by Aphex Twin-esque music.
Yeah.
That's like, you're meant to feel that relief because it's over, but instead, someone's just yelling at you in robot.
It's like you're being beaten up at the end of this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you've been beaten up, and then someone else comes along and kicks you in the head and steals your wallet.
And then someone else just like presses all the bruises and follows you around, like flicking you and stuff. Yeah, it's got a nagging kind of terror.
Yeah, it just keeps going. So I am rating this movie on Bucket of Frogs.
Mm.
And it is an absolute jam-packed, overflowing bucket of frogs for me.
uncountable frogs.
Yeah. They're all there, writhing around all weird, looking pretty similar to the demons all wriggling around in their own goop. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Horrible. I love it.
For you to say horrible that many times makes me think that maybe we're at the extreme end of Jamie's taste. Is that true, or is this your big MacGuffin? Is this how you get me?
I mean, I watch and enjoy films that you would think are more fucked up than this. But this, I don't know, films like Flower of Flesh and Blood or August Underground's Mordom, or like those films that are more horrible than this in the moment, they don't stay with you. You know that it's not real, even though if you don't know in the moment it's not real. When it ends, it's like, oh, I know that wasn't real. I can live my life. That wasn't a real snuff film, despite the fact it's presented like one.
Sure.
This, I mean, I know it's not real, but the lingering dread that sort of coats the runtime keeps going, sticks with you for, I mean, it's been 24 hours at this point. And maybe it's because I've had to think about it a lot and clarify my notes and then ultimately have this conversation with you, but it has absolutely stayed with me, that feeling. That sort of weird, chesty, ooh, here's some low-level anxiety.
Yeah, I didn't have a great day.
No, me neither. But I really respect that.
Me too. That's what it's there for, right?
Yeah, so few films can give you that.
It's true. For me, it's amazing to me how different types of horror films just fuck you up in different types of ways. I felt a similar kind of sickness after really going deep on movies like Cannibal Holocaust, but I could easily delineate between the two sort of full body sensations that I got from the movies. Very different movies, obviously, but like similar ballpark feelings. It's a bizarre thing to put yourself through.
So I think Cannibal Holocaust reminds you that people equal shit, to paraphrase, or not even paraphrase.
To directly quote.
To directly quote Slipknot. Whereas, like, this movie, I mean, it reminds you that people are horrible, but also that the world is big and full of horrible, scary things that you don't understand and that you'll never truly know and understand.
Yeah, it's that like yawning, unspooling, endless, unknown cosmic terror that you can't put your finger on.
Yeah.
That is mentioned in the movie, you know, this idea of unifying with the cosmos, but we're not treated to any kind of cosmic horror, really, are we? We're just sort of kept really grounded in what could be a real world hell, which is twice as scary than any kind of Lovecraftian, you know, cosmic space demon.
Baskin. Let's never speak of this again.
Yeah, let's go our separate ways. Thanks for joining us on Final Transmission. This has been Baskin. You're welcome, I guess. Yeah.
Hopefully you've watched the film before listening to this.
If you haven't, you're a dumbass. Good.
But if you have, we're kind of sorry.
Only as sorry as the filmmaker, I imagine, which isn't very sorry at all.
Yeah. But if you enjoyed this and you want to support us, there's loads of ways that you can do that. You can sign up to our Patreon for just, £3, $3 a month.
Yeah, you might as well.
Get access to that.
What was the last thing you bought for $3 of your currency? Probably something total garbage. Invest in yourself. This is all about
You can't even
self-care,
get a flat white anymore.
Yeah, I mean, full stop, as far as I'm concerned. There's not a lot you can do with that much money. And let me tell you, there are worse places in the world to put it than our Can We Make a Podcast kitty.
Yeah. You could follow us on Instagram. That's FT Horror Show.
Do that now.
Do it right now.
Let Daddy see you do it now. Go on. Well done. Good work.
You've made me feel bad.
Sorry.
You can fling us a review or even just a little rating on wherever you get your podcasts. It's just a little boop, 5 stars if you think we're worth 5 stars. Boop.
Say boop when you do it, definitely.
Yeah. I always say boop when I press something. Boop.
I make like a weird kind of robotic clicking sound normally.
Give us a little demo. All right.
Pretty good.
Like a tiny little gun.
Yeah, the best thing you can do is talk to people and tell them about this. If you like it, tell some people and
Yeah.
force them to enjoy it.
If you watched Baskin because we watched Baskin, then it's your duty to get more people to watch Baskin. And if they've watched it, they might as well listen to this podcast.
You're in the club now. If you did what we did, then we're in this together. If you're a Zoroastrian theologian or preacher or something, we're sorry. We probably got your religion all wrong.
Yeah.
But that's what we're here for. So,
And if you're, I don't know, if you're super clued up on Turkish folklore and Taran Baba is a real thing, let me know.
Please let Jamie know.
Join us next time when we will be talking about Bad Dreams from 1988. One of my dubious favourites.
Dubious favourites? What does that mean?
I mean, I don't want to spoil it for you, Sam. I don't want to ruin anything. I know how you like to go in fresh and clean.
Damn right.
So, yeah, we'll talk about that next week, and it'll be
what a cliffhanger.
Interesting.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Jamie.
Thanks, Sam. And thank you, Baba, for listening.
Good night, Baba.